Is LaNorris the best quarterback in college football? I certainly think he's up there. And I have senior writer for the Sporting News, Bill Bender, joining the show to break down his quarterback rankings and where Sellers fits into this. He will also break down Shedeur Sanders' performance in Brown's minicamp and their quarterback situation. Mack Brown saying North Carolina lowered academic standards to help out Bill Belichick. We're going to discuss this and so much more. We are live here on Bailey Price Media Live on this beautiful Thursday. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and become a member. I'll see you on the other side. Welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live.
Bailey Price Media. I like it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Bailey Price Media Live. Today, we are live on this beautiful Thursday, and I have the honor of having senior writer for the Sporting News, Bill Bender, joining the show to talk all things college football, including to answer the question, is LaNorris the best quarterback in college football? I'm going to get his rankings and his quarterback rankings going into the season as we get closer to the season. He also had a chance to take in Shedeur Sanders' performance and Brown's rookie minicamp and Brown's minicamp. We're going to discuss that with him as well. Mack Brown saying UNC lowers standards, academic standards to help Bill Belichick succeed. We're going to discuss that and so much more. Folks, if you're watching, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army. I cannot thank you enough for tuning in. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring in our special guest, senior writer for the Sporting News, Bill Bender, joins the show. Bill, how you doing, man? Happy Thursday. I can't thank you enough for joining.
Hey, Bailey, thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for joining. I really appreciate it, and can't wait to talk all things college football with you. The thumbnail says it. Is LaNorris the best quarterback in college football? I wanted to get your take on your quarterback rankings as you and your colleagues over at the Sporting News release your top 25 quarterbacks going into the season. Who is number one? We're going to discuss that as well. But let me ask you about LaNorris as a player a little bit before we dive into your rankings. How do you feel about LaNorris and South Carolina going into this season?
Well, I think obviously the talent is immense. You look at his ability to do both and the size and, being that kind of difference maker. The Heisman hype is very real early with him. So we have him in our top 10. Where do we have him? 6. I thought the big games against Texas A&M, that was a reminder of that talent. 8-3 as a starter. I thought he played well against Alabama early in the year. Even though they lost that game, he made some plays that kind of got your attention. And does he have the potential to be number one? Sure, absolutely. I actually think anybody you take our list at Sporting News, which is comparable to yours, you could probably take it down to the guy behind him, DJ Lagway, and any one of those 7 could turn out to be the best quarterback in college football this year. After that, there's a little bit of a dip.
No doubt. And I really like what I saw from LaNorris last season. I think we're just getting the beginnings of, what he can really do on the field as a quarterback. I think people are still writing him off as kind of the Anthony Richardson type super freak athletically, but he can really sling the rock as well. I really like seeing LaNorris in that, South Carolina LSU game where I thought he had a hell of a performance. He got hurt. He came back. I mean, I just, for South Carolina, looking at them going into the SEC, I thought last season, had it not been a roughing the passer on a pick 6 that was called back there in the playoff, I'm really, really high on South Carolina going into the season now. Bill, I can't thank enough for joining. Let's dive into you and your colleagues over at the Sporting News published top 25 quarterback list. And I wanted to ask you, who is that number one? You guys had Arch Manning. Things about Arch Manning is he's, taking the chance to sit back and really develop and see somebody in Arch's position who is a backup who has the ability to play as a starter would go and transfer in college football.
Well, I think, it's that blend of talent. If you're going to go in on the hype, you might as well go all the way in. That's kind of the way I looked at it. You saw the way he throws the deep ball last year. The mobility, which, you're not used to seeing, kind of similar to Garrett Nussmeier last year. Now,
definitely.
Is there a risk factor here? Sure. kind of like Joe Burrow, but I think he'll be better in year one as a starter because he's been there.
Yeah, Heisman candidate. Is he your foregone Heisman hopeful here as we head into the season? I know it's really, really early. And number two, do you see Arch Manning? I think you just mentioned seeing him as in a second year. Do you see him staying at Texas past this season?
Well, second question first. Yes, I could see it because I mean, just the family history. Peyton played 4 years. Eli played 5, which, some of us forget about. He sat behind a guy named Romero Miller for a while. Romero could play. Peyton wasn't originally going to be the starter at Tennessee, but there were injuries. So I think with NIL, with everything that could benefit from playing a second season at Texas, you absolutely could see that coming. And I won't be surprised at all if he does. Now, as far as the Heisman this year, that's hard to call. It is a quarterback award. We know that, despite what Travis Hunter was able to do last season. And a lot of these quarterbacks, like I said, on our list, on your list, you don't have it up right now. I did see it earlier. Let me see your list real quick. John Mateer is a good one outside the top. I like him.
I'm excited to see John Mateer.
He went higher on him than we did, and I'm cool with that. So, I mean, pretty much any guy on your top 10 there would have a shot at winning the Heisman, depending on how it breaks in that SEC.
Definitely. And let's talk a little SEC. Like I mentioned, I'm really, really high on South Carolina going into the season in that conference. Obviously, you got Texas, who I thought they did pretty damn well for the first year in the conference. Now, let's stick on Arch Manning and Texas. How do you feel about Texas in the SEC going into this season?
Well, they lost a lot of guys to the NFL draft. That's the first thing you wonder out loud. In that Ohio State-Texas game, I'm quick to point out all the time that 26 of those guys were drafted. And that's not counting the next 2 classes. So how they fill losing a couple linemen, losing some of that interior defense. So it doesn't really come down to Arch or Anthony Hill or, Ryan Wingo or, Trey Wisner. They've got plenty of playmakers back. It really, to me, how do they settle on the offensive and defensive lines? And we're going to see if Sark was able to build that. Their schedule's tough, obviously. But if they keep those, that's where the key is in the SEC. It's not fancy. It's how good are you on both sides of the trenches. And then if you have some playmakers on the outside, and Texas showed last year that they were good enough to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to SEC, and I would throw the Big Ten, I don't know if it's at the same level, but certainly when it comes to those 2 conferences, trench play is a key, why you see so many offensive and defensive linemen from those 2 particular conferences drafted in such a high volume going into the NFL draft. Well, let's move forward. Bill, I can't thank you enough for joining, my man. I wanted to get into this. This is an interesting story here. Mack Brown, former head coach at the University of North Carolina, has said that the University of North Carolina lowered their academic standards to help Bill Belichick succeed. I thought this was an interesting development. I wanted to play the audio clip of Mack Brown talking about Bill Belichick and talking about himself leaving University of North Carolina. Take a listen.
Time for me, North Carolina didn't have NIL money, and I said we were kind of a slow bleed. We weren't able to recruit the top kids like we were when we first got there. So it was time for them, and it was time for me. So it was kind of like a divorce. Everybody was ready. It's just who and how you split at the end. So it was best for me to get out. We always built programs on fit, and in our last couple of years there, we were having to get parents with money. We were trying to get kids over a 3.0 because that's who we could get. We signed 26 players at North Carolina, our next to last year, high school players, and didn't pay them a penny. So those kids, I felt guilty. We even had Omarion Hampton. He got offered $1 million plus to leave, and he stayed for $300,000. I told him he should leave because it was just crazy as you were looking at those things. As far as North Carolina and Bill Belichick, now he's arguably the best coach ever. They've committed money to it. They've helped them with academics. They've lowered those standards some, so there's absolutely no reason that they shouldn't be successful.
Man, that's an interesting clip, hearing about the differences in Mack Brown and the way he recruited, and now him talking about Bill Belichick taking over. Bill, let me ask you, what did you take away from hearing Mack Brown talk about this? And go ahead.
Well, always liked Mack. I thought he's one of the good guys in the sport, always looking for what's best in the sport. And, with all the changes that came, he was outspoken about what he didn't like every step of the way. And the point about Amari and Hampton, who, by the way, was arguably the best running back in the country the last 2 years. You could make that case. Maybe not last year with Genty, but over the last 2 years, certainly. And, he's not the only player that I've heard, was offered there. You heard stories about the reported numbers that Drake May was offered to get in the portal. So I can see all that. And, Bill Belichick, it's going to be a soap opera all the way through. I didn't anticipate that. Between Jordan and this news and everything, it seems like it's a pain just to get him on the field at this point, which is what I want to see instead of the soap opera stuff off of the field. But, it'll be interesting to see. I think they are one of the most interesting teams as a result in week 1, because we're going to see how it goes against TCU.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think they're going to, I'm really excited to see the Tar Heels. They got a kid, a quarterback transfer from South Alabama named Gio Lopez, lefty kid, plays a true freshman for Major Applewhite, South Alabama. I think he's a hell of a player. I can't wait to see him in Bill's system. I talk about UNC on the show a lot. On the field, I don't get into the Jordan Hudson and, Bill Belichick now is engaged to the 24-year-old Jordan Hudson. This has been such a media circus off the field, but from what I've heard from the University of North Carolina, that's kind of overplayed and played out by the media. Now, if you actually look at them as a team, they're running their team like a professional organization, which in this era of college football, I'm with it. I'm all about, hey, this is a professional football. And bringing in a GM like Michael Lombardi, who I know damn well he's running it like a professional organization. They're bringing in all kinds of players, over 60 players, over 60 transfers in the transfer portal. They're treating this like professional football, and I really think they're going to take the ACC by storm this season. Let me ask you, them bringing in Michael Lombardi, or Bill bringing in Michael Lombardi as his general manager, what do you think the impact of that is in this era of college football?
Well, I think you said it. They're going to try to run this like an NFL team in a era where it's not a perfect comparison, because NIL and free agency are two different things. You can't just cut kids and then bring in a punter in week 5 or a kicker. I guess you could, but it would require an open tryout on campus. I think the biggest fascination I've had with the whole North Carolina thing is I'm wondering if it's going to be like Bill Walsh when he left the 49ers and went to Stanford, which the first year, if you go back and look at the first year at Stanford, it was unreal. They beat Notre Dame. They beat ranked teams. They had a great season, and then he lost interest. So how into this is Bill Belichick going to be? Is he using it? You got to think. I think we can agree that on the field, yes, they're going to want to win, and he's going to do everything he wants to win. But is he using this as a slingshot to get back in the NFL, where everybody knows he's not that far behind Don Shula for the most wins?
Yeah, I think just above one season it would take for him to get to that record if he went back to the NFL. My biggest thing, Bill, I expect maybe a season, maybe 2. I'd be shocked if he stays there for a long time. I'm just really looking forward to seeing him and the way that Michael Lombardi, the general manager, the staff they've built up there. He's got multiple sons of his on the staff, as well as all-pro linebacker Jamie Collins on the staff. I can go on and on about the staff. But I think when it comes down to it, I'm really excited to see this team. I don't care about the media circus. I don't care about the 24-year-old girlfriend. I just want to see them play on the field. And I really like the way that they've tackled the unique era we're in college football. Now, looking at the ACC this season, I think the ACC, besides Clemson, is pretty wide open. Miami, I think, has a lot of question marks. I know they got the transfer quarterback Beck, but they lost a lot of weapons, especially on the offensive side of the ball, that I think they're going to have to fill and see if they can fill the holes that they lost, so to speak. But how do you feel about the Tar Heels in the ACC, Bill?
Well, it's a wide open conference. So they do lose Amarion. That was their offense. They lost Willie Lampkin, a really good offensive lineman. Now, and their defense, they lost some guys in the portal, including an edge rusher to Ohio State. So they have a lot of holes to fill. But to me, the fascination is the X's and O's part then. Okay, so how does Bill Belichick, and where the talent gap between North Carolina and, well, it might be considerable with like Clemson, but it's not considerable with anybody else in the conference. So could they go scheme their way and go beat an SMU or whoever? Sure. And that's what makes them so interesting right out of the go in these first couple games against TCU and Charlotte. We're going to see what they're all about. So I think, I've targeted 8 wins as that would be a really good season.
Definitely.
If it gets above 8 to 9, I mean, then you're wondering, okay, are we going to squeeze Bill Belichick into the playoff if they get to 10?
Yeah.
So, and their schedule is favorable to start. So, again, one of those very interesting teams in the ACC.
Definitely. And I can't wait to see them play out in Chapel Hill. I'll be out there for a game or two. I got to see it in person at least once, see Bill on the sideline in college. Bill, I can't thank you enough for joining. My final question for you. You were in person at one point for Shedeur Sanders' minicamp, Cleveland Browns rookie minicamp, and I wanted to get your biggest takeaways from seeing Shedeur Sanders, really get after it in Browns minicamp. I know it's just shirts and shorts here, but what were your biggest takeaways from seeing Shedeur Sanders, get after it? First time seeing him practice for the Cleveland Browns. What were your biggest takeaways?
All the talk about the circus is just not there yet, because it seemed like a regular rookie minicamp with a few more cameras. I thought he threw the ball well. I thought the best thing for him, and I'm not saying, look, I've coached my son for years, so I'm kind of partial to Deion. I don't get into that. I think Deion helped get his son to the NFL. And the way he did it, you can question it all you want. His son's playing in the NFL now. But it is going to be good to be away from Deion for a minute and earn it this way, because nobody can question it then. And I think if you know the Browns' history, and I've lived in Ohio most of my life, this is the wildest quarterback room of all, because you have Flacco, you have Kenny Pickett, Deshaun Watson probably won't be ready. Shedeur's going to have a chance to start at some point. I really believe that. I think he will start. I don't know when. I think it's an interesting, and they're going to keep Dylan Gabriel too.
Yep.
So you're going to have Dylan Gabriel, a 3rd-round pick. Teams don't cut 3rd-round picks. And Shedeur, who I thought looked pretty good at camp, and reports vary. You know how that works. You and I could watch the same 20 throws and report 2 completely different things. I have a feeling you and I would actually be closer than that. But, I thought he looked good. I'm looking forward to it. And I'm actually a Shedeur fan. I think, he took a lot of hits in college. He did elevate a program from 1 to 9 wins. He's done nothing but throw touchdowns and not very many interceptions through his career. And, when you question his behavior on the field, sometimes I would just tell people, man, you haven't drove 4 13-year-olds to lacrosse practice like I do. They're a little bit different than we were back in the 90s. All right.
Yep. Definitely. And I cover Colorado over with the Colorado alum named Matt McChesney over at the 060 podcast. And I love Shedeur. I'm a really big fan of Shedeur. I thought him going in the NFL, he needs to go somewhere where he can be coached, where he's away from his father. Because I think, him playing for his father for so long, he's an unbelievable player. There are some bad habits that he can be coached out of as a quarterback, especially going in the NFL. I think now going in Cleveland, having Joe Flacco as a mentor, 40-year-old mentor, won a Super Bowl, somebody who's been there and done that, and recently has success, leading the Browns to a playoff run. I thought that was so great, and it'll definitely help him in Kevin Stefanski's system. I don't care about all this noise of, his on or on the field antics. I played football. I want my quarterback to have ego. I want my quarterback to, not be afraid to, take a chin shot and get up and spit blood out of his $100,000 grill. That's how I feel about Shedeur Sanders. And my biggest takeaway watching Shedeur last season, obviously, great player, very, very accurate, the most accurate quarterback in college football, in my opinion. But my biggest takeaway was his toughness. Colorado's offensive line was not great last season, and they have lost, they're replacing guys with reason in that room. But my biggest takeaway is when Shedeur would get hit in the mouth, he would get right back up and go and sling it. Like, he would go and respond like that. He gets up, he's tough as shit. And that's my biggest takeaway watching Shedeur Sanders last season. Bill, Mary Kay Cabot, reporter over in Cleveland, reported that Kenny Pickett and Dylan Gabriel will take the number 1 and 2 reps in Browns OTAs. How do you feel about this Browns quarterback room going into the season? Who will start week 1? Because I thought it was Joe Flacco's job to lose. Now I'm hearing it's Kenny Pickett. What do you think?
Well, I talked to Nate Zagira, the Browns color commentator on the radio, and he does a fantastic job. I've known him for years, and he kind of put that one on me last week. He said, I think Kenny Pickett's going to have the first crack at it, and I had the same reaction as you. I'm like, they're kind of viewing Flacco as if we need to go Joe Flacco, we will. But let's go with Pickett, who they did trade for, and teams don't trade for guys that they're not going to try. Mm-hmm. And so then it becomes Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders next. And they have a lot invested in Dillon Gabriel. They like Dillon Gabriel. The way Nathan put it to me was they liked him more than the draft complex liked him. The media liked him. So they're going to give Dillon Gabriel every chance. And then when Shedeur kind of fell into their lap, they get him at essentially a value pick, like we would do in a fantasy football draft. If that guy falls, you have to take him, and that's what they did. And so it'll make for very interesting OTAs, very interesting training camp. But I think the whole circus thing, and I despise that notion that we're doing that with Shedeur. But I think that starts if he gets a chance to start. Then the attention will ramp up with him. But in the meantime, I think he can work and develop and try to get a shot at that role. By the way, Cleveland started 7 different quarterbacks the last 2 years. So if we think just one guy is going to start this year, I would caution people, then you really haven't lived in Ohio for more than 5 seconds. We kind of know how this is going to go.
Definitely. My final question for you, I debated this last week with several different guests. Who is the odd man out in the Cleveland Browns quarterback room? In my brain, I just don't see a scenario where they keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster, but I guess that's a possibility. Who's the odd man out in the Browns quarterback room if there is one? I
think there's a couple scenarios. I think they're going to keep both rookies. So I'm going to go with what Nathan told me, and it's in the article we ran last week, that it will start with Flacco. And then the other possibility to me is one of these guys pops in the preseason and they trade them to New Orleans or some quarterback needy team, where I could see Joe Flacco getting traded to the Saints for somebody that Tyler Shuck can watch. I could see Dillon Gabriel popping off and, he's a 3rd rounder. We don't want to lose him, so let's give him to somebody else, much like they got Kenny Pickett. So I'm going to say Flacco, but always an opportunity to trade there, one of these guys, especially if they perform well in the preseason.
Definitely. Let me throw this scenario at you. Kenny Pickett, he played for Kellen Moore last season in his system in Philly. My whole notion was if anybody is the odd man out, I thought it was Kenny Pickett just because of that Saints needing a quarterback with the Derek Carr retirement. They have Rattler and, like you mentioned, Tyler Shuck down there. What do you think about that? Is any possibility there? I know it's hypothetical, but
no, it's as good as any. And the reason why is it's good because of everything you just mentioned. There's familiarity factor, and if the Browns I guess it could work either way. If he's good, you get him while his stock's up. You get something for him. If he's not, then you can offer the Saints somebody that can help in that quarterback room because the Derek Carr retirement was unexpected. But yeah, I mean, that's another possibility. The other one is, Shedeur gets cut, which I think I doubt it. I just doubt it partially because you don't cut somebody when you're selling that many. How can you cut somebody when you sell that many jerseys?
Yeah,
the Browns will turn on you at that point. And I'm not saying marketability should influence decisions, but you and I would both be naive to think that it doesn't sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Well said, Bill. Well said. And I can't wait. We're going to get closer. We're getting closer to OTAs. Can't wait to see how this Browns quarterback room plays out because I don't think they're keeping 4. Something's going down. I can't wait to see how this plays out. But, Bill, it's been an absolute honor having you on my show on this beautiful Thursday. I can't thank you enough for joining. I love getting your insight on Bill Belichick, college football quarterback rankings, and Shedeur Sanders in that Browns quarterback room. I hope you have a great Thursday, and I can't thank you enough for joining, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and anytime. Let's catch up again before the season starts, and I really enjoyed this.
Absolutely. I'd love to have you on again. Hope you have a great Thursday. Thank you for joining, Bill. Shout out to Bill Bender, senior writer over at the Sporting News. We broke down his quarterback rankings, so go check that out over at the Sporting News. Shout out to Bill Bender for joining the show, discussing all things Shedeur Sanders in the Browns quarterback room, LaNorris Sellers and his college quarterback rankings. He's got Arch Manning at number 1, which I think it's a great answer as well. Folks, I can't thank you enough for watching. If you're watching, hit that like button, subscribe, and become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army today. I want to break down a little news, college football news that came out here recently, actually today here. So in this regard, this is in regards to seeding in the college football playoff. They're moving to a straight seeding this year. Teams will be seeded 1 through 12, which I'm with this. I love it. This is how the college football playoff would have been ranked last year had they implemented this system last year. Obviously, you don't have Boise State in the top 4, which if you've listened to me talk about the playoff, I was very against, considering they play in the Mountain West, etc. And I got teammates that play at Boise. That's just my opinion. Now, news came out today that they're going to be seeding the playoff 1 through 12. I'm really happy about this. This eliminates, the free bye that the 4 Power 4, so not even Power 4, but conference champions would get. And now this is going to be really interesting with the playoff. I'm surprised that they're not pushing to expand to more teams. I was kind of expecting that going into this season. I guess 2026, that's when we can expect that to go to 14. And then, God forbid, shout out to On3 Sports with their clickbaiting report on Matt Rule going, as he joked, up to 40. I'm with it. More football, the better to me. I get that some of the first-round games were not great, but I think this specifically will solve that because let's be real. I think Tennessee and SMU would have been a lot better game than SMU and when they played Penn State. I think Indiana Notre Dame wasn't a bad game, but I think Indiana Boise would be a lot more interesting. And it's a mix for a better matchup for Oregon, in my opinion, because I think Oregon last year in the playoff, the way they was seeded, got screwed having to play either Tennessee or Ohio State. I think that really screwed them from a number 1 seed. Looking at like Notre Dame, Clemson, same thing, Ohio State, ASU. And I think this is better for the playoff. I'm not against the 12-team playoff. I think that it's going to take a couple years for them to get the system right, work out the kinks and all that. But I'm not against the college football playoff and the expanded college football playoff by any means. I'm with this, and I'm glad that they're doing this. So college football playoff is now be seeded 1 through 12, get rid of the 4 conference byes. Interesting news coming out today. Something else that came out per ESPN SP Plus, a post-spring top 25 for college football here. Now, I'm not going to comment too much on all the teams, but there are a couple of teams that stick out to me. First one, Tennessee Volunteers at 13. Oh, how can you rank Tennessee above teams that have a quarterback like South Carolina, Texas A&M, Florida? Like I don't understand that. Tennessee has a quarterback issue. They don't know who their quarterback is. They got the three quarterback battle going on in Knoxville out here, and I think ultimately they're going to go with the App State transfer that they brought in, but I don't know, man. App State to Tennessee is a big jump, and to expect them to have any real success, I think I'd be naive. So I got to see it to believe it when it comes to Tennessee. Same with Miami, in my opinion. I think Miami, like I mentioned with Bill Bender, they lost a lot of offensive weapons. Seeing them at 12, I mean, it's preliminary, obviously, but still, I don't know how I feel about that. I think South Carolina should be certainly higher. Arizona State makes a case to certainly be higher. SMU, I don't know how I feel about SMU. Again, I got to see it to believe it. It could have been a one-off. And they lost. I think the loss of Brashard Smith is huge for them. I don't hear a lot of people talking about that. Kansas State, I like it. That's right where I'd expect them. I think they're going to have a very, very solid season. Avery Johnson, quarterback, they got a hell of a player for them. Indiana's a team to watch. They got the quarterback transfer, Fernando Mendoza from Cal, big gunslinger, 6'5". Kurt Cignetti gets a gunslinger at quarterback, and that's a team I'd like to watch and see how they play and see if Kurt Cignetti can build off of the great season he had at Indiana last season. Louisville is a big question mark for me. I don't know what, again, quarterback position. There's a lot of teams, in my opinion, on here with quarterback question marks. Clemson, I think, is going to be legit. I think Clemson, for all the noise that people give Dabo, I think they're going to be pretty damn legit. Klubnik, I think, just gets another season to build off what he did last season. I think Clemson's going to be legit. I think they're by far the favorite in the ACC, and the ACC is wide open to me. But yeah, post-spring college football 25 or college football top 25 rankings. We'll discuss this more, obviously, as we get closer to the season. And then in the season, every single day, we'll probably break down the rankings. So can't wait for that, folks. But, folks, if you're watching, hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army. I can't thank you enough for watching. We're going to be live probably on Saturday, depending. We won't be live next Tuesday. I'm headed out to Hilton Head Island in beautiful South Carolina, so I'll be out there for the week. I'll be live on Thursday of next week, though. I got 2 special guests for you. One of them I can't wait. Somebody I've been trying to get on the show for a while, so I can't wait for next Thursday. I'll be live on Saturday, though, and I'll be live tomorrow with Big Matt on 0 to 60, talking all things Colorado Buffaloes news, updates, and coverage over on 0 to 60. So check that out. Obviously, check out Free Game Friday on the Coach JB Show with Big Smitty tomorrow. You know it's going to be a wild one. I can tell you firsthand, oh boy, it's going to be a wild one. I don't know if Smitty's going to be there, but Smitty might not want to be there after all the topics I'm going to have for JB tomorrow. So stay tuned for that as well. And folks, hit that like button, subscribe, become a member of the Bailey Price Media Army. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great and beautiful Thursday, and I will see you on Saturday. Peace.